What the heck is Formula One?
Pole position, strategy,
yachts and parties,
safety car, Ferrari.
beautiful corners.
Oh, right, okay. There's a car in front of you. Try and overtake it.
Oh, I hate you so much. Hello, you fools. Welcome back to another Formula Fools podcast. I am David, your self-appointed expert, and with me is Skin, who is the local fool on this podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Hello,
How's it going?
Skin.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Good. How's Maeve?
She's good.
Good.
That's my daughter, for anyone who doesn't know.
Well, everyone knows. You've got to establish these things, Skin. From pit lane antics to racing riddles, we're here to make you laugh and question your sanity. Sit back, buckle up. It's time for Formula Fools. We don't have the little Formula One car anymore, Skin.
Just be honest.
Yeah. I mean, I do have it somewhere,
Okay.
but we just don't play it anymore.
It's fine.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Right, this week we're talking about the 2026 regulations. Obviously, we are midway through 25, but 2025 has been a little boring. We've got the same cars, the same aero, tricks up and down the board, and the same. Everyone is complaining about overtaking. Monaco this year sucked. Spa wasn't the best. We've had a few races this season that have been a bit boring because of the lack of overtaking. But don't worry, Formula One have apparently got a reset button, and in 2026 they will be hitting it.
Yep. It's all happening. Getting a new formula, an entirely new formula next year with smaller, lighter cars. They've got new aerodynamics with dynamic wings and things of that nature. They've got an engine that is half electric, or a power unit, sorry.
Power unit, Skin.
Half electric, half engine. And I think they've got a couple other little tricks, like an overtake boosting button and fully sustainable fuels, as you do.
Yeah.
So,
obviously.
yeah.
F1's going vegan.
Just chuck that in there.
It's not just a rule tweak, though. It is going to be the biggest shakeup that we've had in Formula One since the turbo hybrid era, which is what we're in now, which started in 2014. So it's been 11 years of this power unit regulation, which is why it's going to be a very big deal. And it's why a lot of people are getting excited for next year and already writing off this year. Sorry if you're a McLaren, Oscar, or Lando fan, but this year's been boring and will continue to be boring. I think we said it at the beginning of the season, it wasn't going to be as interesting as last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it should be an interesting battle to see which McLaren driver wins at least.
Yeah, it's going to be Oscar.
Okay.
I could eat my words there big time. I'm not biased at all. I definitely don't have an Oscar Piastri phone case.
Anyways, so I was going to ask, my first question about this whole new 2026 regulations thing is, I assume they change the regulations all the time, or is it? No?
First one in 11 years. Like, okay.
So, yeah, it seems like
engine.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It seems like, is this just a particularly big shakeup, or is it genuinely the first time anything's changed in 11 years?
On the power unit side of things, we've had very minor changes to fuel flow, airflow, like these little things, like very small changes, very small things on the MGUK and things like that over the last 11 years. But nothing as great as this since the turbo hybrid era. So before turbo hybrid, we've got a 1.6 V6 engine in them right now. Before that, we had, I think it was a 2-point-something V8 engine. So the engines were the actual engine without the electrical systems was a lot bigger than what we've got now. And then before that, we were V10s and then we were V12s. That's taking you back to like late 80s, early 90s. So yeah, it's the biggest shakeup we've had in terms of like changing the power unit for a very long time. We do have these from time to time, but to this extent, it's usually a 1 in 10, 15 years kind of thing. And it's just to keep up with new technology and to make sure that F1 is at the pinnacle of engineering across both an engine and a electrical point of view. But this has been their like stretch for a more sustainable formula and a more sustainable world is why these regulations have come in. But then in terms of the aerodynamics, we obviously had the big shakeup in 21. I always get this confused because it was supposed to come either 20 or 21, and then COVID hit, so then they pushed it back a year. So I can't remember if it was 21 or maybe even 22. I can't remember. So this is the biggest aero shakeup since then, which obviously isn't a long time, but I think they realized fairly quickly with these cars that the ground effect aerodynamics and the stripped back aerodynamics that they announced for this era didn't work like within the first season. with the porpoising and everything like that they had. If you watch Drive to Survive, you'll see Lewis complain about it quite a lot. Mercedes sucked with their porpoising. It was obviously, we obviously needed a dramatic change with the regulations, and that's what they've done.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the biggest overall change that we've had, as in aerodynamically and engine all at once, for a very, very long time.
Okay. Exciting stuff.
Yes, it is.
Shall we start talking about some of these changes?
Yes. We've listed 8 things out. Skin's going to get us started. Sorry, Skin. Probably cut that bit, Disc.
That's quite all right. So I think first and foremost, I said at the start, they're looking at smaller, lighter cars. I guess one big complaint with Formula One at the moment is how hard it is to overtake. It seems like whoever sort of starts in front ends up winning.
Yeah.
And that's largely because the cars have gotten bigger and bigger for years, right? I think for the last however many years, they just keep getting larger and heavier. And for the first time in a long time, they're heading back the other direction. Yeah. Which is cool.
Yeah.
So they are cutting the wheelbase. So the distance between the front and back wheels, which I assume will impact the entire length of the car by 20 centimeters. That'll down to 3.4, where I think the 3.4 meters is the wheelbase. I think the current entire length of the car is 5.6 meters.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they're big suckers.
Yeah. Skin.
Sorry, Disc. And then, so that's the length. And then they're also cutting the width of the car by 10 centimeters to 1.9 meters. That, well, I don't know if that exactly, but somewhere in amongst all of that, they're also shaving weight off. I think the cars will end up being a total of about 30 kilograms lighter.
Yep.
So that all has some impact on like things like downforce and drag and stuff, which I think you'll elaborate on a bit later.
Yep.
But one question I wanted to ask is, in amongst all of that, they're also cutting the floor width by 15 centimeters as well as the entire width. Do you have any idea why they would do that?
Just like I said a minute ago, the aerodynamics that we have at the moment with the ground effect, it's all dominated by the width of the floor, and the length of the floor. So the wider your floor, the more of a suction to the ground you're going to get, like you're going to create. So I think they're just shortening that to kind of just limit the teams on what they can do underneath the car and with the floor. I think when you look at the modern floors in comparison to what we had like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, the way that they stick out so much is huge. And then you take that back another 20 years, the floors used to be pretty much flush with the side pods, right? And they used to hug the car around like that. But now you kind of have the side pods hit this thing and then it just fucking sticks out and it's got all these little winglets and everything. So they're just trying to limit what teams can do there, so that there's not as much dirty air flying off the back, and teams aren't like gaining so much on the using the floor element. Okay. So it's a very basic thing that they're doing, and teams will exploit it still, and we'll, in 2 years' time, we'll be talking about this fucking floor needs to be smaller or something like that. But I think certainly with all of the dramatic changes, I think it's going to be something that teams will either get right or they'll get wrong. So it's going to be something to look out for. And I think pre-season next year, we'll see a lot of chatter about what people do with their floors, just like we will with the length and the wheelbase and things like that. We're going to see a lot of talk of what this team did or what that team did, or, the interesting things in between. Like all of these points that you've just listed there are, it's going to be huge pre-season. So if you've never watched pre-season before, definitely watch it next year, because there's going to be a lot of interesting engineering chat. If you don't care about that, fine.
Okay, exciting stuff. And yeah, so I guess the whole idea with making the cars smaller and lighter is just giving them more opportunity to get alongside each other and race.
Yeah, 100%.
Around tighter corners and things like that, as opposed to sort of just sitting in single file the whole time.
Yeah, that's the aim. The width only being 10 centimeters shorter isn't the greatest, shorter, narrower, less wide, whatever, isn't the greatest change. I would have loved to see that go to like a 20 or 30 centimeters shorter. But there's a lot of other things at play with the battery and the safety around the cockpit and things like that, which I think we'll talk about a bit later as well. So, I think if we're going to get to smaller cars again, it's going to be a slower progression, hopefully. But it's a step in the right direction. I feel like they could have done more. They could have gone more radical, but with the width, but they haven't, which sucks. Something on the weight, which I will talk about a little bit later with the fuel stuff. Not only are the cars going to be 30 kilograms lighter because of the width and the length being shortened, the fuel that they're allowed in the car is somewhere around 30 kilograms less than what they're currently allowed. So that means that the cars are going to be starting 60 kilograms lighter overall than what they are now, which is a very huge thing for the drivers. It'll mean it's less like physical on them. So then they can attack harder. So that's something I think which is really important to note. The cars are going to be a lot more nimble.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice for the drivers. It also should be huge for lap times. Like you hear people talk about how every kilogram is, 0.2 seconds in lap time or whatever the hell it is.
Yeah.
But obviously there's a lot more to that in terms of how much power you've got.
Exactly.
And they're changing all of that as well. So it's not really quite that simple, is it?
There's something else I'll talk about with the power unit as well that is going to impact lap times, or could impact lap times. So we'll get onto that in a little bit. But I'll move us on to aerodynamics. We are removing the DRS. If you're just listening and you're not watching on YouTube, I'm using air quotes because we're not really removing the DRS. They're not going to call it the DRS anymore. They're going to call it the Z mode and X mode. X mode is going to be low drag, more for your straight line speed. DRS. So essentially your front and rear wing will open a flap and allow air to flow through.
Right.
DRS.
Okay. So they added DRS to the front and called it something different.
And slightly changed it on the rear. So the rear at the moment is just the one element that lifts up. It's now going to be like the angled element and a flat element that lifts up. Mm-hmm. So it's two elements on the front, and I think it's two on the rear, and I think it's two on the front as well, which will angle up at the same time to allow airflow through the front wing to reduce drag. This is in an attempt to improve overtaking, which DRS was an attempt to improve overtaking, and it did. It allowed a lot more overtaking, but it looks snazzy, like it looks cool. Whether or not it's going to dramatically improve what we get racing wise, it should cut the drag on the front end, so you don't get as much front end washout down the straights, I guess. But the moment you close it, I think the limitation to this, and obviously there's a lot smarter people working on it, and they will have done simulations on this, is that the moment you close it, I think the difference in drag once it's closed versus the drag reduction when it's open, I think that difference in downforce level is going to be way more dramatic than what we see right now, because you've got two moving elements. So potentially we could see at the end of a long straight, they close they go for, sorry, let's use the new terminology. They go from the X mode to the Z mode. Mm-hmm. And they've got the full downforce effect in Z mode. I think we could see some people maybe under braking or maybe on turning, like losing the control of the car or struggling in the early stages of the season, because that difference in downforce level from X mode to Z mode is going to be so much more dramatic than what we've got right now. So that's something to potentially look out for with the new regs.
Okay. Couple questions here. Do you know how they're going to be allowed to use it? Will this be similar to DRS in that you can only use it if you're within a second of the car in front sort of thing?
Yeah.
Or is it?
I don't think they've made it 100% clear. Could be wrong. Let us know in the comments. But yeah, you're allowed to use it for overtaking so long as you're close enough to the car ahead, is what I read. So I'm going to assume it will be a 1 second. You've got to be within that 1 second, just like with the DRS now. And for qualifying, I'm going to assume that you can just use it like to get the fastest time. So during what would it be? X mode zone instead of a DRS zone, you can just open them and use them as much as possible.
Okay. Second question. Do you have any idea why they're called X mode and Z mode? I've been trying to work this out in my head, like maybe the way the wings open makes it look like an X or something, but I'm really not seeing it.
I don't get it. Okay. I honestly, it's PR, it's marketing, isn't it? Like, DRS has had such a bad name. There's so many diehard fans that don't like DRS since the ground effect era of the aerodynamics, people have been calling for DRS to be fully racked off. So I think that it's just a way of just saying, oh, look, it's not DRS. We actually got rid of DRS. Okay. Like, I think it's PR. I don't think it's anything more than that because it's DRS.
Okay. Fantastic. All right. Next up, we have a manual override battery boost, which I think along with X and Z mode will essentially be some sort of DRS type of thing as well. It sounds like they'll be able to use it when you're closely trailing a car in front of you, and it'll just give you more of an energy boost as opposed to, I guess, drag reduction.
Yeah. So that's what they're billing it as. Okay. You can use it whenever you want.
Oh.
You can use it throughout the lap whenever you want. But the what they're saying is if you're going to use an overtake, or on the flip side of that, if you're going to try and defend against an overtake, you can use it as an extra power boost to give you more energy deployment from the MGUK.
Okay. Right. Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Sort of.
But the whole point is that if you use it, if you're just going around and you're like 1.2 seconds off a car, and you're using it, and then the next lap you're 0.4 off the car and you've got no battery left, well, you've used it wrong, because you've used it to catch the car, great, but you use the slipstream and the X mode or whatever to catch the car, and then use that while you're attacking. So I think that's more what they're trying to say there, is like it's going to make attacking more interesting if it's used correctly.
Okay.
But you can use it whenever you want.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you. The explanation I read was about just sort of roughly how it works, I suppose, is that the energy deployment of say the car in front will taper off after 290 kilometers per hour, reaching zero by 355 kilometers per hour.
Yep.
And then the following car can have this sort of override button and benefit from the MGUK override, which provides 350 kilowatts all the way up to 337 kilometers an hour.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. We used to have something called KERS back in the day. KERS was basically just this. It was an extra battery mode, and you could use it. People used it for attacking. And we used to have this really fun little battery graphic, and it was literally like a AA battery on screen, and it would show when people were using the KERS and how much KERS they'd charged up and whatever. So anyone that used to watch F1 like 10 years ago, you'll know all about KERS. It's essentially that. So if you want to watch any videos on it that explain it easier, I think watching the old KERS videos explain it is different. It's slightly different in how it's going to be used and how it recovers energy and things like that. There's more regulations around it, but yeah, it's essentially KERS is what we used to have. Okay. But I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah. Okay. Exciting. And so I feel like at the moment, like in racing at the moment, you already hear stuff about energy saving, like going around corners and things like that, and sort of letting people use more energy later with their car and trying to be a bit clever about that. Is this like similar to that, but just you essentially have more control over it with this button thing? Is that?
Yeah, essentially. Perfect question though, Skin, because this leads me on to my next point, which is all about the power unit split, 50-50 combustion to electric. I'll go to this bit first, which I was going to finish with, but the major changes we've got with the power unit now is we're not going to have the MGU-H in 2026. We're going to have a bigger MGUK. So the MGUK in 2025 has 120 kilowatts, which is around 160 horsepower of power output. In 2026, it's going to be almost tripled to 350 kilowatts or 470 horsepower of power output. So basically what this overtake button does is it allows you to use this like extra power, like you said, with them speeds from 290 to 355 or 350 kilowatts to get you up to the 337 kilometers per hour.
Yep.
There's a lot of words being like abbreviations being thrown around. So that deployment it basically is all coming from the MGUK. And so there's a lot smarter people out there that are doing a lot of maths. If you go and check out the YouTube channel, I wrote it down and I can't find it now. Engineering Explained, he did a great video on the 2026 regulation of power units. And in that, he explains that using this boost button continuously with all of the fuel flow and the airflow regulations that are going to be set for 2026, you could only, on a full charge, you could only use it for around 11 seconds because the actual battery size isn't going to change. So the battery stays the same, but the MGUK, so the battery powers the MGUK and the MGUK gives you the extra power with the button and just as you're driving as well. That's not going to change. So you could only run this theoretically on full power for 11 seconds. Meaning if you were to run it on the longest straight in F1, which is Baku, you couldn't even get halfway down the straight and you would run out of power if you were to run it constantly. So that's where we go back to MGUK and this boost power management. It's going to be very important for drivers and for strategists and things before the race. But it's going to be very important for them to plan out when they're going to use it and to use it properly. And if they make mistakes and use it incorrectly, then they could have no power whatsoever, and then they've got to recharge the battery over the next lap, 2 laps. And the recharging will change as well. So The energy recovery at the moment, I can't remember what the numbers are that it's sitting at, but for next season with the new engines, it's going to be able to charge around 5 times faster. So, you know, when you see them lifting and coasting into corners and you see the light flashing in the dry, that means that they're harvesting energy and they're recovering energy back into the battery so they can deploy it again. Next year, it will be 5 times faster. So we should see them be able to recharge a battery within a lap, maybe lap and a half, which is also very important for qualifying. Because you know how we see them, like they'll go out, do a slow lap, then a fast lap, and then they might need to do 1 or 2 slow laps to recharge the battery.
Yeah, okay.
Same thing, but they should be able to recharge that even faster now.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, but the whole thing with what you hear now versus what you're going to hear next year, yes, we have it now, but it's because it's only at that 120 kilowatts, 160 horsepower. When you hit the throttle and you get to the point where the MGU-K kicks in and helps power the car, you're only getting an extra 160 horsepower. Next year, you're going to get an extra 470 horsepower. So that is where the dramatic difference is. And that's where it's closer to the combustion engine as well. See what I'm saying?
I do.
Go skin. But yeah, like I've already said, the combustion engine is still going to be a 1.6 turbo V6. Because of all of these changes with the MGU-H being eliminated, the MGU-H is basically like when you hit the throttle, the engine powers up, the MGU-K kicks in and gives you the extra booster power. The MGU-H manages that power output from the MGU-K so that there is no what we call turbo lag in cars. If you've ever driven like an old Ute or an old vehicle that's got a turbo in, you will hit the throttle and you'll hear the, and then you'll feel when the turbo then winds up and kicks in, and then you'll get like that push forward and that boost from the turbo. That little bit in between where you hear the engine revving before the turbo kicks in, that's what we call turbo lag. So it's the lag between your foot hitting the throttle and the turbo kicking in and giving you a boost. We used to have it a lot back in the 80s and 90s because we had fucking big engines with very fucking big turbos and nothing to manage or nothing to wind up the turbo or anything like that, which is basically what the MGU-H was doing. With that eliminated, people are speculating that we could introduce a turbo lag within the power unit. But a lot of people are saying with this bigger MGU-K, the chances are a lot smaller. So something to look out for, but I think they're smart enough they're eliminating the part for a reason. And I think they've got systems in place or software in place to be able to manage that turbo lag.
Okay. So this power unit will end up being 50% electric and 50% engine. Is that correct?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, like essentially yes, but when you actually look at the numbers don't make sense because the horsepower from the engine is still like, I didn't write it down, but it was like 800 and something horsepower or something like that. So then with the energy system being 470, when you look at them numbers, they're not the same numbers. So it's not 50-50, but the energy, the way that the energy is deployed from both, like you get in my electric car and you feel the power of that when it accelerates versus a petrol car. The initial power is a lot quicker because energy from a electrical system can be powered quicker. Like that 0 to 60 can be quicker than a combustion engine. So like what they're basically saying is the power outputs and the way that the speed in which they're outputting is closer to 50-50.
Right. Okay. What has it been closer to so far? Because we've been in this, what do you call it?
Turbo hybrid era.
Turbo hybrid era. So they've already had hybrid engines, but just not near 50-50 ocean.
Well, yeah, because the power difference, like the 160 brake horse power from the MGU-K in the current era versus the 470, it was so much lower. So I would say it would probably be like a 75-25 or 70-30 or something like that.
Okay. This next one is cool, I think. So they're moving to 100% fully sustainable fuels. So I think the F1 has had a goal of net zero by 2030.
Yes.
Right? So they've sort of just been pushing towards generally fewer greenhouse gases and carbon emissions and things like that. And so their fuels are going to be made from any process that ends up being carbon neutral, essentially, is my understanding. So they'll be pulling carbon out of like waste or literally the air or algae, or they can essentially do whatever they want by the sounds of it, as long as it is sort of like within a few guidelines of being carbon neutral, not impacting like food crops and land use for food use and things like that.
Yeah. As in like the waste going from the fuel factories can't pollute rivers and oceans and things like that, I think is what they're essentially saying as well.
Right. Okay. So they're going to end up with 100% sustainable fuels is what they're calling it, which is exciting, obviously. But I guess I think the fuel used on track only accounts for like a very small percent. I think it's around like 1% of Formula One's total carbon footprint.
Yeah.
So, but the really sort of mind blowing thing is the fuels that they're making that have to be what they're calling drop-in fuels. Mm-hmm. So they'll be able to just mix in with other fuels like in everyday cars, which is I guess kind of makes sense. Like Formula One has this history of innovating on technology that ends up having a massive impact in the rest of the world. I think like seat belts and that the hybrid engine, I'm pretty sure things like that have all sort of started in F1, and this just sort of seems like it'll be the next thing, I guess. So they're just going to have this fully sustainable fuel that you can just pump in your car as of like presumably next year. Maybe it'll take a little bit longer to get sort of rolled out in a big way, I suppose. But you'll just be able to fill up your car with fully sustainable fuel, which is
it's very exciting.
Yeah, which is crazy. So I think I guess I presume the play there is less about their like 1% of their carbon footprint and more about getting, I think it's like 1.2 billion combustion engine cars in the world.
Yeah, that's exactly
sustainable
it.
Fuels.
And that's the key is like they say net zero, but ultimately I think the goal is to just make the world not reliant on fossil fuels. So that's the main point is like, the cars going around the track is next to nothing on their carbon footprint, but flying around the world in private jets is a very fucking big thing, and flying all of them personnel around the world, but also us as fans and spectators driving or flying around the world to go and watch races. That has a huge impact on, like when we go to Melbourne, just think of how many hundreds of thousands of people or probably tens of thousands of people that are driving to Melbourne or driving around Melbourne, getting taxis, doing whatever, just to get to the race. Like that's the whole point is if we can make a fuel that we can eventually sell at the pump, like anyone that is attending the race has no reason to not use these fuels, and then help F1 in making the world a better place for the future. I froth it. I think it's amazing. It's been met with a lot of criticism by petrol heads that are like, it's not real petrol. It's fuel. It's still gonna fucking smell like fuel. Like it might be slightly different, but you know what? It's fuel. We're not going to Formula E, and we're not going to be fully electric. So I froth it. I really like it.
It sounds to me a lot like I don't know. I don't like when you go to buy a wedding ring and you've got the option between what is it, like mined diamonds or blood diamonds and lab grown diamonds. Yeah. And it like ends up being the exact same thing. Yeah. It's like they're all just pure carbon. And it's like just the process to get there.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
I suppose.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like the process to get there will be very different, obviously, but it is going to look and smell and feel and act like the exact same product. It's like when E10 fuel came out, right? Like a few years ago. I remember like my dad's a mechanic, and I remember speaking to him on the phone and being like, is this E10 fuel good for your car? And he's like, it's fucking amazing for your car. Like it's so much cleaner. It's so much healthier. But in the UK, there was a big like uproar, like, oh, I'm not putting E10 in. I'm only putting 95 in my car, and like all this shit. And it's like, it's actually like the same thing. It's just the process to get there is a cleaner process. So like this will just be another evolution of that. And once it eventually gets into road cars, it's just going to be, it's going to make the biggest of difference. Like I bought an electric car because of carbon footprint and blah, blah. And there's going to be so many people fucking hating on me. Oh, electric cars actually contribute way more. But anyway, there was 10, 15 years ago, there was nothing in sight to say you could keep a petrol or diesel car and there will be a sustainable way of running that in the future. This is literally that sustainable way. Like you will still be able to have your Honda and just put a different fuel in it. And all of a sudden that is you're now running without using fossil fuels or without killing the planet. You're running it in a very like earth friendly way. And I think that's amazing. I think that's what we need to be. That's what every form of motorsport needs to be striving for. But it starts at F1.
The other thing I found amazing about this is, so all the teams are going to work independently with whatever fuel provider they work with to get their fully sustainable carbon fuel and work out what process they want to do, whether it's pulling carbon out of the air or out of waste or whatever.
Yeah.
Which I just found crazy. So the FIA is essentially just like just set this rule, this guideline. It's like by 2026 you have to be 100% sustainable fuel.
Yeah.
Go work it out yourselves.
Yeah. There's a lot of
crazy. I think the FIA also have like a partnership with Aramco or something where they're doing some work, but I guess they're not. It doesn't sound like that's how the teams are getting their fuel.
No. I think the work that FIA do is a lot more just like, is this realistic? And then when Aramco are like, yep, this is realistic, it's like, right, go fucking do it. Yeah. But you always see like Petronas and Shell doing like things where they're like, oh, we like it when things like this happen because it challenges us. And like Petronas's headquarters in wherever it is, Malaysia or wherever that big fucking cool looking building is. It's like whenever Mercedes do like a big tour of the factory, it's just fucking engineering nerds that just love a challenge like this. So I think for them, it's just like they want that challenge. So for the FIA, it's kind of like, oh, well, we'll set you a fucking almost impossible goal and you just go figure it out if you want to. Like they don't need to do the work because the nerds at Petronas and Shell and Mobil and whatever, like they just want the challenge of creating something cool. Yeah. So yeah.
And I guess it'll also mean that like each team will have a slightly different process and you'll sort of get that elimination process of working out what's the best way to do it, I guess.
Yeah. The fuel flow and the fuel like oxygen levels and things like that are way tighter this year for next year than what they are at the moment. So like, yeah, in theory, we could see some different things, but then the way that the cars or the way the engine, like the combustion engine of the V6 is going to use the fuel is heavily regulated. So effectively, they'll all be the same. Like there'll be different processes and things, but the way that the cars use them is super, super tight. Again, go and watch that Engineering Explained. He talks a lot about the fuels that is going to be in the cars and explains that in a lot more depth. That is way out of my. I'm out of depth talking about it. So yeah, let's move on to my next one. 30% less downforce and 55% less drag. We already spoke about it a little bit at the top with the cars being shorter, narrower, and the floors being narrower as well. So we've had the aero regulations are going to be slashed. They're going to slash the downforce by around 30%. So we're just going to see cleaner front wings, less winglets on the sides and on the floor towards the rear of the car. And then again on the rear wing as well, you see all them like little slits and curves and things. They're reducing that. So again, just tighter regulations. And drag is going to be reduced by 55% for more efficiency, which kind of then contradicts what I said with the Z mode and the difference in the downforce level once you go from X to Z mode. Because they are reducing the drag overall on the car, that should change that difference. But the reason I still said it is these aerodynamic regulations we're in right now were supposed to reduce the drag by this much, and like we're supposed to reduce the downforce by all this huge percentage, and it didn't happen. The team still found ways of getting around it and creating dirty air out the back. Like the whole thing for the current regs was we're going to have no dirty air. You're going to be able to follow within a second all the time forever and still be fast and da-da-da. Cut to this year, you can't fucking follow within 1.5 seconds again, which was the same as 6 years ago, which was the same as 10 years. Like it's an ever-telling story that engineers find a way to fuck up the car behind you. Like that's their job.
Right. Or
engineers, aerodynamicists. So yes, these numbers look great on paper, but again, let's cut to 2 years' time where Adrian Newey has figured out how to fuck everyone else on the field, and Aston Martin are dominating.
Okay. Yeah. So you say these numbers look great. I get reducing drag by 50% looks great, right? Because if you're driving behind a car in a straight line, that means you should be going faster. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Why would you want to reduce downforce by 30%? Surely that's just going to make cornering slower, which is what's cool about F1.
Because you can't reduce drag without reducing downforce, right? Like drag is caused if there's a part, like on a rear wing, if there's a part facing upwards like this, the air hits it, that is drag.
Right.
it is also downforce because the air is hitting it and pushing the car downwards.
Sure.
So they come hand in hand. So if you're going to reduce drag by this much, downforce inherently is going to come down as well. So they go in partnership like that. The cars we have at the moment have ridiculous amounts of downforce. And I think the era of F1 that people kind of want to get back to, we had a lot more stripped back, way less drag, way less downforce, and more power. So I think when we look at the more power coming from the MGUK, the combustion engine stayed the same. Or, well, with the fuel regulations, the combustion engine actually has less horsepower. But again, that's a deeper engineering thing that I'm not really qualified to talk about. But yeah, like, you know, with the power output coming from the MGUK being a lot higher, it looks like they're trying to go in that direction of more power output and slightly less downforce, which is, I think, going to be the golden, the sweet spot with F1 if we can get there. This won't be it. This will just be the first iteration of it, but it's the step in the right direction.
Okay. Cool. And then, so my sort of last point to talk about was safety. Obviously, 2026 regulations, they've included some stuff to hopefully improve safety a little bit.
Yeah.
I feel like the sport's already pretty safe. So there's, there's only really tiny bits to talk about here. The FIA have revised the front impact structure rules, introducing a 2-stage nose design to mitigate the risk of detachment in initial impacts. So, I assume if the front of your car is getting hit, that means you've run up the back of someone, but or something like that. And so at the moment, they cited a few examples of essentially the whole nose detaching.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, and obviously if that goes flying around the open cockpit, that could be dangerous. But
yeah, exactly.
Do you know of particular crashes where that's happened? I can't really remember seeing just the whole front of the car fall off.
There's been a few.
Reminded me of that boat. Have you seen that video of the boat? Reporters like, well, what you don't want with the boat is the whole front fall off.
Yeah, that's not supposed to happen. So there's been a few. I think China, one in Australia. I think maybe with Fernando Alonso, where it's more the front wing, not the nose.
Right.
Will detach. So the front wing will detach from the nose, and sometimes it can go underneath the tires and like lift the front end of the car, or sometimes it can detach and then just fly off and potentially hit someone. It's not really happened, and it's been something that we had it quite a lot a few years ago, like 8 years ago or something. And so since then, it's been something that they've been slowly tweaking and altering to make it better. And that's why we don't really see it much anymore, is because it is a lot better than what it used to be. But it's just another stage on that. And I think with the new front wing design being what it is, there's going to be like a greater contact point from the nose to the front wing. So that's why they're just emphasizing the rule change here and making that contact point a lot stronger as well.
Okay. They've also added more stringent rules around side intrusion, protecting the driver and fuel cell area, which is cool. And then I didn't really get this. Lateral safety lights will be fitted to identify the energy recovery system status of a car. So when it's stopped out on track, that will protect drivers and marshals.
Yeah.
So if a car's stopped on track recovering energy, how does that?
So sometimes how we'll see a driver their car will just fail and they'll pull over at the side of the road and then they'll stand on the car and jump off of it. There's a light right above the driver's head that is green, yellow, or purple. Now I can't remember what state it is, but if it's yellow, you don't want to touch the car and the ground. You could get electrocuted and die. Because the energy system is still recovering. It's in a recovery state. The chance of it happening, I think, are fairly small, but like you could get injured is the whole point, because there is an active cell on the car that is harvesting electrical energy. And so the only contact points the car has to the ground is 4 rubber tires. So you're grounded through that. But if you go foot in the cockpit and then foot on the ground, you don't really have big rubber soles on your driving shoes. The chance of a thing is huge. You also see marshals wearing these very thick yellow rubber gloves when recovering a car in this kind of situation. Same reason. It is then so they are grounded. Even when the car is in, I think green or purple is like a good state, they will still use the gloves just in case for safety. Like I said, in the power unit, in the energy recovery system, it's going to be 5 times larger. So that means if that cell is active, then the power coming out of it will be 5 times more. So yeah, we need to make sure that drivers and and marshals are going to be safe when exiting or maneuvering a car. So it's just we're doing this more power. We need to improve the safety here.
Sure.
It's kind of, that scale kind of effect. And that moves us on to our last point, which is the manufacturer buy-in. So we are going to have 5 power units on the grid next year. I know what a lot of people are thinking. Why is it not 6? Alpine little bitches, and they got rid of their Renault engine and are going to Mercedes next year.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh,
yeah. So they're not really a constructor anymore. They're just a customer like Williams and McLaren and Haas and all the other ones. So Mercedes are going to be the number 1 power unit with 4 cars or 4 teams on the grid being powered by Mercedes. It's going to be Mercedes themselves, Williams, McLaren, and Alpine. Ferrari are next up with Ferrari, Haas, and Cadillac. Red Bull are going to be Red Bull Ford. So it's going to be a Ford engine on the grid, and that's going to power obviously Red Bull and RB, Racing Bulls, whatever you want to call them. They'll probably change the name again next year. Honda are going to be powering Aston Martin. So Aston Martin are going to have their own independent engine for next year. That alongside Adrian Newey is going to be a fucking beast. If not next year, definitely for 27. And then Audi are coming into the sport and they will be powering themselves. So they'll be the 5th engine on the grid, which is the most engines I think we've had in quite a long time. I mean, not really because like the Alpine, but like it's interesting that we've got Ford are new to the grid. Honda are moving from Red Bull to Aston. So that's in the last, 9 years. They were with McLaren, then they were with Red Bull. Now they're with Aston. So that's going to be a big shift for them. And then Audi coming in is just a good shake up for the rules. And interesting that we've got Ford and Audi coming to the grid this year with all of these major engine changes. So these engine changes are obviously attractive to engine manufacturers. So hopefully that would mean we get more engine manufacturers in the future. Williams, let's say, they could do with, I don't know, like a Lamborghini engine in the back, something like that. That would be fantastic. And then we could win everything all the time.
Yep. Very good disc.
Just had to end on a Williams point. That's good. Well, that wraps up another lap at the Formula Fools podcast. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did. And it is now your turn to join us. To join the Fools family by connecting with us on social media. We are Formula Fools on Facebook and Formula_Fools on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok.
Oh yeah. You can also leave us a rating wherever you're listening. I would think Apple, Spotify, places like that help a great deal. And then on Apple specifically, you can leave a review as well. And we have one here to read out. 5 stars. That's a nice start.
Yeah.
Just completing the DRS here direct rating system. 5 stars. Really enjoyed the look. Really enjoyed the look at the DRS. Go the Fools. 5 stars, one star.
Yeah, he's obviously a jockey fan. Yeah, he added it with brackets 1 star. Yeah. So we're doing well, is what that means.
Right, okay. That says 5 stars in 3 different places, though, so we're pretty happy
very
with that.
Confusing.
Yeah, more of that.
But thank you, Patty, for that one. And thank you for joining us at Formula Fools, where every turn is a chance for a good laugh. We'll see you next time. Oh, you little... Oh, scared. Look at you with the sound effect.